Hello, what's good? My name is Janae Zhurab and I'm a lifestyle and wellness freelance writer. Today, joining me is my best friend, the love of my life, my husband, Vadim. Hi.
Hi.
In my last video, I talked about my love for reading, my favorite books, why I wanted to start this channel, and I mentioned in that this guy is the reason why I got back into reading for pleasure. When we first started dating, he told me he read like 50 or 60 books the previous year, and my mind was blown and I couldn't comprehend that. I feel like we're both reading between 30 and 50 books a year. My goal this year is 50 books. What's your goal?
I'm at 52.
50, and I feel like we're pretty...
I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this year.
How many have you read?
Well,
That's good. I think I'm at 15.
according to Bookreads, I'm 3 books behind the schedule. So.
You can make that up. We can make it up. I think I'm 1 book ahead. But you never know with like reading slumps and stuff. So I mean, We'll see. It doesn't really matter the numbers, but it's like always nice to have a goal. But today we're going to do a bookcase tour. We have a large bookcase in our living room. It's literally the length of one of the walls. So we're going to do a tour of that. But before, since you guys kind of got to know me a little bit and like my reading habits, I wanted you to be able to get to know Vadim as well. Then we're also going to talk about how we're saving money on book buying. Our financial situation is different from previous years, and so we kind of have to like rein in our book shopping a little bit. So we're going to talk about ways that we're saving money, and hopefully that helps you as well. But before we get into all that, what got you into reading? What or who got you into reading?
I grew up with 2 avid readers as parents, and it's hard to tell what got me into reading. We had a ton of books in the house growing up. My dad is a big reader. My mom reads a lot. I've never really paid attention in school very much, so I had plenty of times to pursue other interests, reading being one of them. So I don't think I can answer the question what got me into it necessarily. Yeah. I just
you were
remember
around books.
Yeah, I remember pretty much my entire life being one way or the other involved in reading as much as I could.
And what are your favorite types of books to read? They're very different from mine.
Yeah, well, it's harder now to pinpoint exactly what I like to read because it kind of changes. It's in and out. You know, I used to read a lot of sort of pop science, nonfiction type of things. A lot of it has kind of grown to be frustrating to me because of the way the information is being presented and kind of sensationalized in a way. I read a lot of textbooks now, which is
Yes, future neuroscience here, so he reads a lot.
An unusual.
Of science books.
It's an unusual thing to do for leisure. Not a lot of people do it.
You really enjoy it though. I know
I do.
I like make fun of you and I'm just like, that's what you're reading because I'm such a like fiction person now, but you actually enjoy it.
I do enjoy reading textbooks, so I don't have a problem with that. I've kind of forced myself to read a little bit more fiction over the last couple of years because growing up until maybe 5-6 years ago, I read fiction exclusively pretty much. Mm-hmm. At some point I made the shift into the nonfiction world and kind of stopped looking back for a while, and it could be intense, just kind of constantly thinking and processing and analyzing and comparing and whatever else.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just kind of good to hang back and enjoy a story that just exists as a story.
Well, cool. Well, we'll like show the actual books that we've read we've kept in our collection. We usually try to sell books or donate books, but like I mentioned, our financial situation is different from like last year or the year before. So going into 2023, we're like, okay, we love going into bookstores. We love just browsing, even if we end up not buying, but it's rare that we don't buy books when we're in a bookstore. So going into this year, we made it a point where we're probably usually only going on like a book date once a month, maybe twice. I feel like in the last few months it's only been once, and we try to limit ourselves to only buying 1 book each. If it's something like, say we're at like half price books, which is like both used and, do they have new books?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Used and new books. You can buy like books for like $6-7, so it's like, okay, like maybe we could get
there's
two
some
each or something
leeway.
like that. Like it depends on what the cost is. Like if it's within like a certain budget, like we leave feeling okay about our choices. So we're not doing as much like random Amazon book buying. Like I feel like last year especially, we were just buying like every other, like so many books, which we were fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now we have to be a little bit more mindful. So limiting like the number of books we're buying. And then I just got a library card like a couple weeks ago. Actually just finished the first book I checked out. I read Big Friendship, which was amazing. I'll probably talk about it in a future video, but I want to start supporting and utilizing our library. It's like less than a mile away from us, so why not? I might as well go out and try to check out some books there, and that's for free. So we're saving there. I don't know what else have we been doing. Oh, and you have a lot of unread books like in your possession already.
It's
so many.
I feel like my relationship with reading is a multifactorial problem in a sense that I do have a compulsion for buying books.
Yeah.
And I do have a lot of books that I have not yet read that I've owned for years. And it all also kind of falls into the saving money problem and library issue that I have. Because when I finish a book, it looks like it has gone through things. So I would not be able to return it, without some sense of shame. Also,
it's that bad.
Well, yeah, they look pretty rough after I'm done reading.
That's why you don't want to really go to the library because you don't want to ruin a book.
Yes, there's a manual aspect of reading that's happening with me. Also, I have this strange, I wouldn't really know what to call it. I can buy a book and read it the same week, or I can buy a book and not touch it for 5 to 6 years, and then return to it as eagerly as I sort of was with it initially when I purchased it. So going to a library, finding a book that I want to read right now just seems like a foreign concept to me in the way that I interact with literature. So which again breeds having these extra books that I have and forces me to think about, reining it in, the spending on books that we've.
And I feel like you've been doing a good job with that this year already.
Yeah, I've barely spent any money and only bought used books this year, so.
Yeah.
It's good.
We're doing better. It's
hard.
hard.
It's incredibly hard, yes. I didn't even, I even allowed my Barnes & Noble membership to lapse.
You don't have it anymore?
No, I just didn't want to pay for it. Well, it's one of those things too. I wasn't really getting anything out of it because we weren't going as much.
We haven't been going as much,
order
which is sad. But Half Price Books is great. Like it's like they have a lot of locations, especially like we have the headquarters here in Dallas, which is huge and massive and a little overwhelming to be honest. But it's still like magical. Smaller ones are also nice, and like you can find plenty of older new books. But yeah, I think we're doing okay. And then for me, I used to post a lot of book reviews on Instagram, and with having like my very small following, I've still been able to get free gifted books from publishers, which is nice. I'm on a couple like PR lists with them, so they'll reach out if they have a new book from an author coming out, and I can decide whether or not I want to accept it. I try to be really mindful of that because I don't want to just say yes to a book that I might not even read. And I really want to get in the habit of requesting more books, since it seems like I am a candidate for that. If I already have publishers sending me. So I want to try to remember to start pitching myself a little bit more to get some more free books, and that's been super helpful to kind of keep it along, because I don't know how we would reach like 50 books each. That's 100 books. Like if we had to buy all of them, that's a lot of money spent. Like books are not cheap. But yeah. So that's why it's like we definitely, when we have such big goals like that, like we definitely had to. It is an expensive hobby, but we love it, and
well, that's again, it's a problem because spending money on books doesn't feel as wrong as spending money on clothes or spending money on eating out, and by the end of the year, you spend twice as much money on it as you do on other things.
That's true.
Because you don't have that sort of this moral value assigned to the dollar that you spend on a book as you do with other things.
Yeah, I feel like
so it kind of, it's a mental trap that you put yourself into to where you don't feel bad about it and then just throwing cash around.
Yeah, because for us it's like, okay, groceries and like rent obviously like must-haves, and then like right under that is books.
Kind of, yeah.
Under that is like all the other stuff, like clothes and stuff. Like I used to be more of like into fashion and stuff, but because like I'd rather do like spend money on activities and experiences, or like books kind of fall into that category. Like yeah, everything else kind of falls under that. But I think that's fine. Like we might do what we have.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. I think enough with the Q&A and enough with talking about how we spend money. Hopefully that gives you some food for thought for how you can save money. We can go into the bookcase tour now. Here's our bookcase. We love it so much. We got it from IKEA shortly after we moved in, when our apartment had barely anything on the walls, barely any furniture, and it was driving me insane because I hated that. When we built it, or when Vadim built it, he did a great job. It's very sturdy. I feel like it was fairly simple for you to build and didn't take too long.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward process.
Pretty straightforward. But yeah, technically it's not like advertised as a bookcase, but we saw it when we were browsing IKEA on an IKEA date, and we figured it could easily be a bookcase instead of like I think the last one we had was like the tall Billy bookcases, but we had to buy 2 separate ones, and we thought it'd be cool to just have one big piece. It kind of feels like an art piece in a way, especially when all the walls were empty. So this just brought in a lot of color to the space, and we love it. It's been working out. We'll go a little bit deeper into kind of our organization of it, but another thing I wanted to point out is we have this top shelf where we put other books, like little knickknacks that we have, and yeah, we just love it. So I think we're going to start from the left side. Most of the books on the left side are Vadim, so I'll bring him in.
So, despite looking kind of chaotic, there is logic behind how the books are organized on our bookshelf. Starting in the top left, there's a largely fiction. It's actually exclusively fiction, what I would consider classic fiction. It sort of slowly molds into more modern fiction. Sort of continues with the modern fiction to some science fiction and fantasy. This shelf kind of slowly transitions from fiction to non-fiction of various kinds. It goes into our biographies. I have a separate shelf for what I guess we would consider foreign literature, books written in Russian or Ukrainian. I kind of keep them together so it's easier to track. Another incredibly random bookcase as far as the genres and the topics. Here we have largely books on social policy, social science, potentially some economics. I spent a little bit of time in the world of politics, so some of these books are left over from those days. With my clinical literature, there's a lot of Oliver Sacks here, mostly, neuroendocrinology, neuroscience, clinical literature. We actually stack them in 2s because we have too many books and they do not fill this bookshelf, and we cannot afford to have another one, nor do we have space, so they live kind of behind the books that I use more frequently. Similarly here, largely neuroscience, behavioral science. There's some other social science books that I have in the back, some economics books. We slowly roll into my shelf with books on evolution. Anything that has anything to do with looking at biology through evolutionary lens lives here. And here I have stuff on philosophy. There's some sociology, books on philosophy, some social commentary, books on Buddhism, books written by monks, books on largely data from every imaginable field and just kind of analytic stuff. And yeah, most of my textbooks live on the bottom. These are the textbooks that I had in school. They live over here. This is all I've gotten through my master's graduate program. There's some textbooks that I bought just for myself, like Essentials of Sports Science. And there's some biology books, some GRE books, mostly academic stuff on the bottom. Anything that's dense and undesirable for people to come to visit that I enjoy a lot.
Oh, well, here we have like comics, and manga.
In the bottom right corner, we have cookbooks that we never ever use.
We don't really use the cookbooks, but I like buying cookbooks, and I'd like to imagine one day we will use those recipes. I mean, Vadim does most of the cooking, as I mentioned before in a vlog. I do the cleaning, he does the cooking, so yeah, sometimes maybe we'll explore the cookbooks one day, but I just like having them. I guess on my shelves, some of the shelves are both of our books, but he kind of went through all of those. But for mine exclusively, I feel like I can start here. It's next to like our celebrity biography memoir books. I kind of break this up where it's more of just like writers or entrepreneurs that have shared their stories. So like obviously Crying and H Mart, which is phenomenal. Somebody's Daughter, like I've talked about that or shown it in a previous video. So those are more like memoirs or books with essays like Trick Mirror, Modern Love, all that kind of sort of stuff. Over here, it definitely gets a lot more fluffy and a lot more girly maybe, but I have mostly fiction here. This is all kind of like chaotic characters figuring out their lives. We have Queenie, we have Such a Fun Age, The Vanishing Half. It's a very big mixed bag over here. And then down here I have my YA fiction. Like I know I'm about to be 31, but I like YA books, so whatever, there's still lessons in there and they're fun to read. So obviously I will never shut up about the Legend Born series, so I have those. And yeah, just a good bunch of other YA books that are either like rom-coms or stuff about like family relations, so I love those. I have a pretty much like 1.5 shelves of, actually I need to reorganize these, this is a bad representation of this, but a lot of poetry, and then a few more like fiction books. Writing books I really recommend On Writing Well by William Zinsser, like anything by Mary Oliver. And then I have more of the like self-help books that I ended up keeping that really impacted me. Atomic Habits is one of my absolute favorites. Set Boundaries, Find Peace. So a lot of like self-help, self-development stuff. And then here is where the real fun stuff is. I have all of my romance novels. I started reading contemporary romance probably like 2 years ago. So I started off with Talia Hibbert's books. That was like the first romance series I read. And then I read all of Jasmine Guillory's books. They're all here. I read these right before we got married, so that was kind of fun. Yeah, this is all like romance stuff. And I think that pretty much wraps up. Like Vadim already went through most of those. I guess really quickly, we can kind of show like our big hardback books here. Like obviously we really love movies, we really love art, and just little trinkets. Vadim's running 3 Spartan races this year. He already completed 1, so we have his little medal display there. And that's our bookcase tour. It's our own like organization, so it works for us. As you can see, it's jam-packed already, and it's only April, so luckily we do have that like 2-row system. We'll probably maybe do like a summer book purge and just kind of go through and see like what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep, and then end up selling the ones that we don't want to keep. And that concludes our tour and our little book chat. Thanks so much for following along. Thanks, baby, for joining my video. It was fun to have you. If you guys want to see more of Vadim, let me know. Alright, bye!